you connected with Jaime to get your stepson's Heat jersey signed?
They'll be here today.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Jaime will be here today.
What's
But I got to watch Stanford film, so family went to the game last night. They were there. So they were with him after the game.
What's allowed him, beyond spending 4 years with you, to be so good so early with the Heat?
I don't know if spending any time with me helped him out, but I give people that are successful have common traits. They've learned through trial and error, and they've had to go through some things that builds a toughness and about you. It just goes back to me, like the dean of college basketball right now is Tom Izzo. And when he talks about the portal being a bad thing, he's not trying to say kids shouldn't have rights, and you know, people jump on him for that. What he's trying to say is that working through things when things don't go well, it builds character, and that's what extracurricular activities, which is what sports started as, was all about in schools. And ultimately, as I got a text from one of my better former players ever at Cincinnati this morning that he's about to retire and he's having twins and he's scared because he's got to retire and he's got to enter the real world. So that's something I'm going to help him work through, and you know, just because he's never done anything but play basketball, but he's successful because he has work ethic, and that'll get him through. But you know, it's not all about the wins and losses. And I know, you know, my other friend Jay Billis, the guy's got to play right away or it's not right. It's just really short-sighted. It's short-sighted about the ultimate thing that Coach Wooden was about was the person, and the growth of a person and the growth of a player, in Jaime's case, allows you to have a better chance to have success because of what you went through, you know, over time, struggles, and they force you to look in the mirror. You know, a lot of players, you realize a lot of players in Jaime's case, you guys will all say, would have left early, right? He didn't even put his name in to test the waters to get feedback, which is a comical joke because they don't tell you anything. So, I mean, I can tell you what you need to get better at. This, so the feedback will last 1 minute, we can get back to work instead of, you know, all that song and dance. But, you know, it just goes back to what it's supposed to be about, and it's a great example for all college athletes, for all young people. You know, he's just a great example. But I give him all the credit, his family all the credit.
What are you seeing out of Ilane in practice, and what does he have to do to, I don't know, find a more stable role?
He has really struggled with the intricacies of college basketball. I think something that worked against Ilane was where he played. He played academy ball, so he didn't play for a coach that was going to get fired if he lost games, you know, in the French Pro League. His defensive habits have been a problem for him, fouling, and it's just his fundamentals really came in untrained. He's trying every day. Had his best practice of the year yesterday. So it's our job to help him because his raw athleticism's there, and he's a wonderful kid. I mean, he's a tremendous kid. And I tell him every day, we need you. You know, there's a few things you have to be able to get out there and not hurt us defensively, because we're not outscoring anybody right now. So if you got to be able to help us defensively, that'll get you on the floor and keep you on the floor. But he's trying. But I mean, that has been his big, in my opinion, his biggest issue.
What about Jan's ankle? Where's
But he practiced yesterday, first time, where he was able to go and, where he could move.
he'll be available?
Yeah,
tomorrow?
I hope so.
As far as Brandon, I know at the beginning of the year you mentioned how receptive he's been to instruction and just doing what's asked of him. Where has he, I guess, made the most strides in the last week or two, considering his production is?
Yeah, what happens with young guys is they struggle, and then they start to, the guys that, Brandon reminds me of Jaime in that he shows up every day with a great attitude and fight. He has fight and toughness. So therefore, they start to get better. And the ball goes in for you in practice. And eventually, that'll translate to the game, and that's just kind of what's happened. I mean, what you saw in the last few games was 2 weeks trailing in practice. I remember turning to Logan Logan Cremonesi on the baseline saying it's going to start happening because he just does it every day.
Coach, when I was on the field covering the end of the Rose Bowl and in the press conferences, I thought about something I want to ask you. Do you feel like, what it takes to win games at the end when they're close, you feel like that's innate, or you feel like that's something that can be taught?
That's a learned thing. Winning is a learned thing. Look at Tiger Woods. I'd say he'd be the greatest example in my lifetime of one of the best to ever play any sport. It's somebody that once he learned how to win, it was all over. His talent didn't change. He would probably tell you he didn't swing as hard. I don't know how old you are though.
I'm old enough.
Winning is a learned thing.
Mm-hmm. How are you teaching that right now as the team is
We're
kind of
getting
going
there.
back and forth?
We're getting there. You can look at, it's like, my dad laments, shots not going in, or, when we talk after games and, about, obviously we let some guys shoot some threes we shouldn't have let shoot threes against Oregon. But, there's like right now, to me, we lost that game for one reason. I told the guy, which I try to be real simple with the guys and honest. If we don't turn the ball over, we're going to beat Oregon. And we would have. If we didn't have 16 turnovers, we would have won the game because with the way we rebound the ball and their size disadvantage. You say, well, you missed open shots. We'd have gotten more shots. We'd have won the game. We're down 1 with 28 seconds and had 16 turnovers. Can't do it. You just turn the ball over 25% of your possessions. You can't win. The fact that we were down 1, people say, well, this three-point shooting, they had these breakdowns. You're not going to shut people out. They had 60 points with 60-59 with 28 seconds left in their gym. You can only play so much defense. Okay, if you get 6 more shots off your 16 turnovers, you get 1 point per possession. You win the game. It's just a fact. So, and they might have fouled on one of those on a rebound, which could even put more pressure on their big guys. So, right now, our guys, we try to give them a formula. Like that was the formula to win that game. So, but we have to continue to play as hard as we did in that game and defend, and we'll have a chance. I mean, that's just the way we have to win this year.
So that's the similar formula for most of these Pac-12 games going forward?
For every game, for us, like we're not beating people 90 to 85. It's just not who we are. We have just way too much youth on this roster. Young players shoot a lower percentage than older players. That's just a fact. College basketball, NBA basketball. It changes. Look at Kobe Bryant's shooting percentages of rookie.
Kind of same question with Adai. Where is he at in his development? Obviously,
A little bit different with him is obviously, Dem is our best player. But Adai the physicality, you know, of it is big, a huge adjustment. But he's also, you know, playing. We've struggled to play those guys together, so that's an issue. Secondly, I would tell you, it just comes down to production. You know, he got a chance to play against Oregon State and gave up 5 points faster than I could go to the bathroom. So it's not that he's not trying, but like, we can't win if we give up points that easy. This team, we can't win. So it just becomes a matter of strategy. He had his best practice yesterday. And it goes back to the process of, you know, everybody wants to skip becoming a player. And what you know, back to, you know, what Coach Izzo talking about, you know, you go through these things and you realize, I have to be a better defender or I don't get to play, which would be the case and is the case for these guys when they get to the pros, unless you're the greatest offensive player of all time, which none of them are, or they wouldn't be here. So, you know, he's going through what he needs to go through. But as for us, if he could produce offensively, I know he's not going to be our best defender, but if he's not producing offensively, it becomes a, you know, strategic thing. But he continues to work hard, and it's hard for him to produce offensively. He doesn't get extended minutes, so it's a work in progress. But I think he had his best practice yesterday. Some of these guys, you know, they learn. You know, there's potential and rankings and that type of stuff are killers of young people, because they give them a false sense of hope of who they are. You know, it's just, you have to help them work through it. It's not their fault. They don't rank themselves. They don't talk about themselves. Everybody else tells them these things.
Your thoughts on the Stanford team you guys are going up against?
Well, hopefully they're out of made shots. You know, I hope they ran out of made buckets. I mean, you know, trying to get over a game that I thought we should have won on the road, and I turned that on, and it's tough. Made my Sunday even tougher. You know, great. I mean, the way they shoot the ball at almost every guy, except for maybe one that they play, shoots the three. So they spread you out. And you would watch what, I mean, Arizona's, they're playing their normal defense and guys are making shots and they're right there. And it just starts to mess with your head. So now you don't help, and now it's a layup drill. You know, so now you try to change what you normally do on the fly, and you know, it's just one of those games where a team shot the lights out like that. But they got guys can shoot. I mean, it wasn't that big of a surprise.
You don't think
You know, it's the same thing the Stanford game. Both Joneses are fifth-year guys. Renault's a junior, a senior, right? Angel's a senior. Will Bynum's a fifth-year guy. Keep going. You know.
How much of a function do you think was that, playing at home, being comfortable with that?
Tough to say. I mean, they played other games at home, didn't make 16 threes. Like I always tell you, man, you know, there's games where they got that kind of game in them, though, because of the way they're capable of shooting the ball. But you always play games where, you know, 10% are the games you're going to play better than you are. 10% you're going to play worse than you are. But like when I come to the press conference and I tell you guys, like sometimes, like, you got to give the opponent credit. And that was a guy, like, I'm just a bystander in that game. I mean, when they're making shots that just snap your defense in half. It's tough. It's really tough, unless you got a lineup that can just guard the ball and switch everything and not help when a team's making those kind of shots, and not get beat off the dribble and just switch everything so they can't get threes. You know, when a team's shooting the ball like that, it's tough. I mean, Clippers last night against the Heat.
Yeah.
speaking of that kind of snap, the Shellstad shot, the 30-footer, was that one where you're just kind of like, guy just made a shot, or should Dylan be out more on that?
I think, again, we showed that, it was an out of bounds underneath. This goes back to winning, playing smart is the real answer. Like, you have to learn, teams that know how to win can play situational sports, whatever sport it is. Okay, there was 6 on the shot clock. You gotta know that. I know he let it go with 3, but and I don't care how far out he is, when we showed you he made the shot from there against Michigan to win the game. See, we showed that. And he caught the ball and both your hands are down. And that just goes to, the clock's late. It was out of bounds underneath. We told you from the bench, there's 6 on the shot clock. I'm not saying you run at him, but let him catch it and be 4 feet away with your hands down, not smart. And that's the same thing that happened in the Ohio State game when they hit it. We switched 4 feet away, hands down, the guy makes a 30-footer. Now look, you can say, well, the guy made a 35-footer. Well, clock's late, you should be, it goes back to knowing how to win, playing smart. All right, guys, I'll let
Thank
you
you.
guys.